Hey everyone, this is Ellie Mae at Swift Creek Customs, and welcome to another episode of Will It Work? So if you've watched the previous video, if not, check out the link in the description below, or there's a button above that you'll see coming up that has the other video. I am working on sharing how you can create an offset around your design for it to be cut. Now, there are several ways you can do this, and this is why this is the fourth time I've recorded this video. In the Siser Leonardo Design Studio software, there are multiple ways you can do something. Now, I did have the most efficient way to make an offset. That is in the video in the description below. Now, I did want to take the footage that I had recorded originally and share that with you because it is something that I think that most users will encounter, and I want to show you how I fixed it or how I worked with it. So it does work. I'm going to spoil the surprise right now. It does work, and I got an excellent print and cut 3 times. So here's a look at that photo of the print and cut files. So it did work. It just wasn't the most efficient way of doing something, but if you're already in your file and you do it with the way I am going to show you, you can still achieve the same results, and I'm going to show you how. And it's a process of using the layers panel and turning on cut lines with your file. Now, it is a few additional steps, and that's why I originally scrapped the whole idea and re-recorded the entire video so that you could see the most efficient way. But I think this is important because when users see it and when it happens to you, when you think you've created an offset and it doesn't cut the offset, now you can go and troubleshoot and see why it didn't create that offset and how you can fix it. And I share that in this next video. So let's take a look. Go over here to File, and I'm going to open it. I emailed it to myself and then I saved it to my computer. I'm going to choose Open. And then I'm going to select this artwork here. I actually exported it in 2 different batches with different layers. I had her create her design on different layers in Procreate in case I needed that. I don't. I'm going to show you how you can work with this because I want to actually resize the bear. So I'm going to open the first one with all the artwork on it. And I'm going to choose Print and Cut at 300 dpi. You want to choose 300 dpi so it will open at the highest resolution that it was saved at. And then I'm going to choose Next. Now, there are additional options here in the trace panels. Every single file you open is different. That means that it could require different settings for getting different results. So if you are having issues with getting files to trace how you want them to, you can start playing around with these tools. Now, I typically don't have any problems. Black is always going to be the best thing that traces. In this case, she outlined it. It was perfect. I'm going to click Next. It's going to trace around that. You see these blue lines around it. I have Include Holes selected. If I uncheck that here, you're going to see blue lines turn off inside those letters. I want it to stay on. I'm going to choose Include Holes, and I'm going to choose Next. And then I'm going to choose Finished. Now, when it first comes on the page, you can see the selection box is outside of my red border for my print and cut. I simply need to click it and drag it into the middle, and then it's going to adjust and it's going to show those registration marks. Now, I'm going to show you a couple of different things here. Siser is great in that you are in control. Now, this is a really hard concept for some users to get used to because before, if they were using a craft cutter, they didn't always have control over everything. So now you are in control. There's several things you can change here. Typically, when I do a print and cut, I click this page marks over here on the artboard. And then I print my print and cut page with the registration marks at the maximum defaults. Now, these default registration marks are what is the most successful for the most amount of users. All printers for all worldwide, those are what has been determined to give you the most successful print and cut. There is an option, and I'm going to quickly cover that. It's under File and Preferences, all preferences, and you can select this small page margins. It has a little exclamation here that's a warning. It is not going to work for everyone, and that is dependent on your printer. So if I click accept and then I toggle those page marks off and on again, it's going to move those registration marks out to the maximum. Now you can't go farther than this. Why? If you do, you're going to be printing on the very edges of your page, and your registration mark may not print completely. Even at this rate, most printers, some printers, especially if you're not on borderless, I'll link a video in the description below about borderless printing too. You can have issues with accurate print and cut when using that as well. But you'll notice here with my page size, I'm set up for letter, which is my standard. My caret or my little arrow is off my page. It's not going to print at all. Now, that little arrow is not the most important part of the process. It's okay, it's not going to print, except that it's going to actually print. And when that ink prints in my printer, it's going to print off my material, which actually means that the ink is somewhere in the printer, and my next prints could have black ink tracks on them. So just things to keep in mind that we see with users. That can affect your results as well. But you need to have the most accurate registration marks printed on your page. If your printer loses traction on your page and your marks aren't printed exactly right, you're not going to get an accurate print and cut. There are all kinds of things when you deal with print and cut that could affect your results. So if you're running into issues, you need to first start over and use the defaults. And that's where I set up the most, especially when I'm using the Siser Easy Color DTV, because this is a more expensive product than copy paper. I'm going to set myself up for the best successful print and cut I can. So I'm going to choose I'm going to uncheck small page marks and choose accept. And then I'm going to toggle that off and on. Now it resets. This is where I have the best results with. Now, I'm going to do something different today. I'm going to link in the description below step-by-step print and cut for using these maximum default registration marks. And then I'm actually going to show you, if I uncheck this, you see that those registration marks move into your design. This is great. I can adjust my registration marks. Once I have that unchecked, you can see this little box here. I can change the value in this box and I can make it larger. The default is usually larger. I think it's about 0.4 if I remember. I've been playing with this, so it changed. So you can make those larger, or you can come in around your design a little bit more. And I'm going to print with this. I want to show this in the video because it is not necessary, due to the way that Siser machines work, to have your print and cut at the very bottom of your page. You are in charge. You are going to set up where your blade tip starts. That is the most important part of a print and cut. So first, it's if it prints accurately and if it prints correctly. And second is where you start your blade. So we'll cover that in depth here in both the software and on the machine. Now, what I want to do here is I actually want to do a couple things. I'm going to right click on this design, select it first. So there's a selection box around it. I'm going to right click on it. I'm going to go to paths and I want to ungroup paths because I want to adjust the size of the bear separate from the words. So I'm going to click off of it, and then now I'm going to show you I can move the bear, and I have my cut line for the bear, and all of my letters are now ungrouped and individual. Now I'm going to hit Control Z. I'm going to undo that because I want it all to stay together. Left click on the left side of my bear, so I am dragging across the bear, and this selects the cut line and the print line, the printed object. And I'm just going to drag this a little bit larger and position it. I have this full sheet of Siser Easy Color DTV, so I might as well take advantage of that. Now the next thing I want to do is I'm going to show you how to create an offset around this. Because I'm using Siser Easy Color DTV on a dark shirt, I think it's going to pop more if I do an offset. So I'm going to get my bear positioned how I would like. And then I'm going to left click and drag across everything to select it, and right click and choose group. Now it moves all as one piece again. So the first thing I want to do is I'm going to come down here to build contours. And I want an editable contour cut only. So I'm going to select that, and then I want to choose an offset amount. Now I'm going to increase this, but since the edges of my design are black, it's not going to show up very well. So I'm actually going to change this over here. Let's use gray, because I can't see the white. I'm going to choose gray first. I'm going to choose include holes, and then I'm going to continue to adjust this up. Now, one thing I want to do here is I actually want to try to enclose all of the name and enclose the bear. So two separate pieces that will be cut. So I'm actually going to click cancel, and then I'm going to choose right click on this and choose ungroup. Now that bear is separate again. So Control Z, I'm going to select all of my title, right click and group that together. And then I'm going to select all of my bear. So I'm selecting the cut line and the print, and I'm going to choose right click and choose group. Now these are two separate ones, but it allows me to set up my offset differently. So I'm going to select this, and actually what I'm going to do is adjust this a little bit better. I'm going to use the magnifying glass and come in here. There's a little bit of spacing. I'm trying to maintain the integrity of her original artwork, but I can adjust this a little bit. So I want to move this a little bit closer. And like I said before, you have control. It's going to take time to learn those differences from any program that you were previously familiar with. Now that I have that kind of placed where I want it, I'm going to select everything. I left click and dragged across everything, and I'm going to right click and choose group. Now I have this, and then I can come down here. I'm going to build the contour for my image. Click editable contour, cut only, and I'm going to actually change this. I want it to be white. I don't actually want it to print anything, but for you to see it on the screen, I'm going to select a gray here for just a second. And I'm going to choose include holes, and then I'm going to increase my offset amount. And what I'm looking for is I would like this to kind of print completely. I still want to kind of keep that, the edges. And I'm actually going to decrease this, and then we'll work with the holes. Like I said, every single design you work with is going to be a little bit different. So I can look at it. Everything is connecting in some form or fashion. That's what I'm looking for. I'm going to change my offset to white. You can't see that on the screen, so that's why I use gray. And I'm going to click apply. I'm going to see that I chose a 0.094 offset. That may or may not be relevant here in just a minute. Now, if I come up here to view, since I chose that white offset, if I do show dark matte, oh, that's not it. View, uncheck that, view wireframe. You can see that I have my offset is now around the design. So if I come back here, I can choose show wireframe, and I'm going to come down to my bear. Now I have this bear. I'm going to zoom out a little bit, 100%. I have my bear selected, and I'm going to choose build contours, editable contour, and then let's change this to gray so you can see it. And we can either start by typing in the 0.094, hit enter, and that actually looks pretty good. It's about the same offset as the other, so we can work with that, but I was able to separate the two objects to do two different offsets. And then come back in here, and I'm going to change this to white for my offset and click apply. I think that the white offset is going to make it pop on this dark purple sweatshirt. So once I have that in, I'm going to left click and drag around everything, and then when I right click and choose group, it's going to move all as one again. Now, if I want to, I can kind of adjust this by the corner bounding box and make it larger. Red means something's wrong. Red registration marks means something's wrong. This is too big, too wide with my offset for that print and cut. So I'm going to leave this up here, adjust that. I have a 0.010 spacing. That looks good. So the next thing I'm going to do is save my project. Save, save, save. You can see I've already tried this once. I printed it without the offset, but then I decided I wanted the offset, so I re-recorded the whole video. Save your files. Always save your files. Get in the habit saving every couple minutes, every 5 minutes. We were drilled that into our heads when we first started with Microsoft Word. Nothing has changed since Word first came out and started. You always want to save. And then I'm going to click Send Design. Since it's a print and cut, nothing can be changed, and I'm going to click Send. Now what you see here is we have this artwork, and then we have our offset contour cut that we created around our design. So it's going to give me that white border that I want that I can then cut. Now that I have this, I'm going to click on my print and cut portion, and I need to print this. So I am going to select, you want to make sure that your page size is set up here. Sometimes it won't come over from the first page. Click Set Print Size. Make sure that your registration marks are black. If they're red, something's wrong. Go back, fix it, start over. If you need to, I'm going to click Send to Printer, and we are going to jump over to the Siser Juliet machine, and I'm going to show you how to set this up to get started. I'm going to select Printing and Properties, and then I want to make sure that it's set for the rear tray. That's how I print specialty materials in my printer. So I'm going to select rear tray. Siser Easy Color DTV is standard print quality with plain paper setting for your best results. Click OK, OK, and we'll meet you over at Juliet. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to turn on my Siser Juliet. It has, who knows what I cut last time. I do have my blade. It's my vinyl blade, so I'm going to go with that. I have no idea what I was cutting, so I am going to make sure to do my test cuts. Test cuts are going to save you so much. So I have a high-tack Siser mat. I found that the DTV doesn't stick well to other mats due to the backing on it. I'm just going to peel off the protective sheet, and I'm going to place my Siser Easy Color DTV down here in the bottom. And I want to be careful. You want to make sure that your DTV is dry. And I noticed it's off a little bit. That actually shouldn't make too much of a difference, but I'm going to just set myself up for success. And try to get it on as straight as possible. And it could be that the cut isn't as straight, but we're going to hope for the best here. There we go. It's a little bit off. Because of Siser's accuracy, I'm not too worried about it. Now, you want to make sure that it's completely stuck down. There's no bubbles. There's nothing in on your print and cut. And you are going to set your blade, the tip of your blade, inside this registration mark right here. Not at the caret or arrow, not over here, not at the bottom of your mat, right inside that bottom left registration mark before you get started. So I am going to send this in. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do test cuts. Now, the great part is I can adjust my test cut. I'm actually going to do a test cut, you know, in the areas where my cut is not, because I want to set that up. And I want to make sure. So I'm going to load the front of my mat with the front of Juliet, and this left line can be used as a guideline. I'm going to hold that, and then I'm going to flip the lever in the back to secure my mat. Now, something I'll note is I do have this middle roller disengaged. The springs are off on it, so you will not see it roll on the mat. with a 12 by 12 mat, I don't find that I need that middle roller. So I am now going to perform test cuts. So I am going to come over here to the cut settings, and I am going to select Easy Weed. And they do have settings on the website. So it says a force of between 5 and 10. I don't know. This is a very well used blade, so I have no idea. So I'm actually just going to increase my force to a 10. And then I'm going to move my blade where I want it to do that test cut. So I'm going to just set it in a negative space around my design. Somewhere you could even do it along the bottom here, however you want to do that. So then I'm going to push the little t-shirt. Grab my weeding tool, move this out, and then I'm going to see how that cut. And it has a little bit of a drag there. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to increase my force just a little bit and then do another t-shirt. And this one is perfect. Perfect t-shirt. I can weed out that circle if I wanted to. I have dots all over. I have t-shirts and dots all over my studio. All over. Test cut, test cut, test cut. Then what I'm going to do is, remember I said you need to set the tip of your blade right here in this inside of this bottom left registration mark. One of the most important things for print and cut. So I'm going to set the tip of my blade right here. And then I am going to send this from the Leonardo Design Studio software. I want to point out here that that little play button is the repeat job button. Links in the description below. If you use that, it is going to repeat the last job that you successfully cut. Even if you've turned your machine off, even if you've unplugged your machine, it will repeat the last job instead of sending what I have from the Siser Leonardo Design Studio software. So unless you are doing the same project over and over again, do not use that play button. It is repeat job. So let's jump back over into the Leonardo Design Studio software and send this to cut. Now we have printed. It is ready and set up on Juliet. I'm going to click on this bottom cutting contours, and I'm going to select use cutter settings because I have it set up on my machine to cut with those settings. If I wanted to, I could come in here and I could adjust it on the Leonardo Design Studio software, but I don't need to. I can just check this for use cutter settings, and then I'm going to click send to cutter, and it's going to do all the work with Siser Juliet. Even though it says Romeo here, Juliet's the only one on, so it's actually going to use Juliet. I can choose no, and then come up here and select, click on Romeo, click Juliet, and choose OK. Either way, it would have gone to the same machine because only Juliet is turned on. So send to cutter, choose yes. Now, registration is fast. You set it up for success by setting the blade yourself, and it is going. I didn't even mess with the speed. I don't really pay attention to speed much. Cutting materials at fast, super fast speeds is not always recommended. And I can tell you that I messed up right now as I'm watching the machine go. I did not weld my contours. We're going to see if I'm right. And I'm going to keep that in the video because it happens. It's done. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip the lever in the back. I'm going to pull my mat out and I can take a look at this. Now you're not going to be able to see this, but we're going to be able to see it when I go to weed this. So let's just back Juliet up a little bit. Take this off my cutting mat. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to simply start to weed this. And it didn't cut my contour. And guess what? I messed up somewhere. So I'm going to go back to my software, but you saw me do the creating contours. For some reason, it did not cut the contours. It cut my original cut line. I am going to troubleshoot that. I am going to put this video out because it happens. However, what I'm going to show you here is, let's take a look at this accuracy. I have had Juliet and Romeo since they came out. I have never had to calibrate my machine. That doesn't mean that you won't have to, but I have not had to calibrate my machine, and look how accurate my print and cut is. Because I am doing things the same way every single time, I don't run into the issues. I can see very, very minimal, if you can even catch that on the camera, white, which is most likely just the edge of that DTV. Now I'm going to troubleshoot this. I'm going to go see why the contour did not work. And then I will print it again and cut the contour, and I'll see which one I want to use. But I'll save this because I can put this on just a regular t-shirt, like a gray t-shirt for her, and it's going to work. So she's going to get a couple things out of this, but I'm going to leave it in the video. Now I'm back in the Leonardo Design Studio software, and I knew immediately when it started cutting what I did wrong. So I want to show you how you can fix that. And you know, I could make a whole new video and show you perfectly step by step, but I think it's more important to show you reality. The reality that even I make mistakes and that it doesn't always work perfect, but you can fix it. So I came in here. When I did my creating contours, what I didn't do was tell the software to tell it to cut those contours. So what I need to do is you can see that this has the dark blue outline around it. The first thing I need to do is I need to right click, and I'm going to ungroup this. And I'm going to come over here. I'm going to close this artboard and open my properties panel. Typically it's on color picker. I'm going to choose layers. Now you can see all these layers that I have, and there's currently nothing in here because they're all grouped together. So right now, if I chose this shape, which you're going to see here, this shape is actually my cutting contours, but there is no designation as to what I want the software to do with that cutting contours. So if I click this right below this arrow, I need to tell it currently it's set to default print, which means that it's going to print kind of a print bleed around my design. Since mine is set to white and my material is white, you don't see that, and printers don't print white anyhow. But I need to tell it to cut. So if I tell this to cut, now you're going to see that I actually have blue cut lines around not only my design, but also around my offset. Now I need to come in here to this grouped object. If I right click on that grouped object, let's click on it only, and choose ungroup, that's going to ungroup all of that design that was grouped together. So what I need to do is tell this, I don't want this to cut. I still want it to print. I want the patches artwork to print, but I don't want that to cut. So if I come in and I change this, in this case, I have several different objects. So I'm going to change all of these. I can click on one, hold my shift key down and click on all of them. And then let's see if it'll change. I can change it and turn it off for all of those at one time. And if you were watching on the screen, those bold blue lines turned off. I still have my print artwork, but my bold cut lines turned off. So now I can come back here, click on shape, hold my shift key down, and I'm going to come down here And now I can right click and choose group. So I selected all of those at the same time. And this is actually a great example of working in the layers panel with your design. Again, Leonardo does what you tell it to do. I didn't tell it to do it right, so I need to come in here and I need to adjust that. So on this shape is my white offset. I'm going to click there under the down arrow and choose cut tool. Now you can see I have two bold blue cut lines. If I come over here to the group, I'm going to ungroup that because it's grouped together with my artwork. Select it first, ungroup, and then this cut contour here, I need to turn that off. So click on it and choose default print. I don't need it to cut. And then if I want it grouped together again, hold my shift key down, select both of those and choose group. Now when I go and do this print and cut, let's take a look at the final results. Now, I know it may seem a little odd to have two videos which have some of the very similar content and using some of the same video clips, but I think it's very important because there are multiple ways to do things in the Leonardo Design Studio program. And as I learned as I was going through this, I found a more efficient way, so make sure to check the links in the description below for that video. All of these print and cuts turned out successfully. It was just the steps to get to that final project. Every single one differed and it can be done, and I wanted to share that process with you. Now, it printed completely 100% user error. The first time I didn't have it set up right. So now I have this offset. I have this second one, and I'm going to tell you, I actually have a third one that I cut because I forgot to do the offset in the first video. So now she has 3 shirts with her little patches on it. So she's going to be super excited. So I hope those tips have helped. Make sure to like, subscribe, and click that bell for notifications of future content. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments below, and check out the description for more information on the Siser Leonardo Design Studio software and cutting machines.